Belize feels like freedom until you live it. That's the emotional pull. When people picture Belize, they see paradise, turquoise water, soft accents that sound familiar, smiling faces, reggae beats floating through humid air. It's the only English-speaking country in Central America, and that alone makes it feel easy. No language barrier, no translation apps, no guessing games at the grocery store. For many Americans, especially Black Americans, that sense of comfort feels rare. It's the Caribbean with convenience, the promise of peace without the stress of starting over completely. The fantasy is powerful. You see YouTubers kayaking through clear water, families buying land near the coast, people calling it the next affordable paradise. The message is always the same: simple life, low cost, and no racism. To a lot of people, Belize looks like a place where you can finally breathe. Warm weather, familiar faces, no language confusion, and a culture that feels like a softer version of home. And that's why so many people fall in love before they ever step off the plane. Belize looks safe. It looks simple. It looks affordable. For Black Americans especially, it feels emotionally magnetic, a place where you might finally belong without having to explain yourself. But here's the truth. Belize is beautiful, but beauty doesn't mean easy. It's not the cheap Caribbean or the smooth American transition people imagine. Belize works on its own rhythm, its own economy, and its own unspoken rules. The beaches are real, the peace is real, but so are the challenges. Belize feels like freedom until you live it. Here's what most videos skip: the day-to-day reality. Belize looks easy from the outside, but living here means adapting to a very different rhythm. This isn't move in and relax. It's adapt or struggle. Electricity, for example, is unpredictable once you leave the main towns. Power outages happen without warning, especially in rural areas or during storms. Most locals have backup generators or solar panels because losing power for a few hours or a full day isn't unusual. If you're working remotely or running a business, that can turn paradise into panic fast. Internet is another wake-up call. It's fine in cities like Belize City or Belmopan, but once you head toward the coast or the islands, places like Hopkins, Placencia, or Kai Caulker, connectivity drops fast. Speeds fluctuate with weather, power, and overloaded networks. You can video call 1 minute, then lose connection mid-sentence the next. Locals manage by paying for multiple internet plans or using mobile data as backup, but either way, it's not seamless. Water pressure and reliability can also surprise newcomers. Some neighborhoods get running water only a few hours a day, especially during dry season. Others deal with outages when maintenance hits old pipes or pumps. Locals adjust by storing water in tanks and learning to conserve, but if you're used to unlimited access like in the States, it's an adjustment you feel every single day. Then there are the roads. Once you leave the main highways, many are unpaved, full of potholes, and turn to mud after heavy rain. Flooding is common during the rainy season, and a trip that should take 30 minutes can stretch into hours. That's why most people who live here long-term rely on trucks, not cars. Vehicles that can handle rough terrain and flooded roads. This is where the fantasy fades for a lot of expats. Belize isn't broken, it's just not built around convenience. It runs on local time, local infrastructure, and local resilience. If you can adapt, you'll be fine. But if you come expecting Western-level comfort, Belize will humble you fast. Here's the hard truth. Belize is not a job market for foreigners. If you come here expecting to find work, you're already setting yourself up for struggle. There are very few professional jobs available to outsiders. Belize has strong labor protections that prioritize its own citizens, and that's not negotiable. Work permits for foreigners are limited and can take months to process. Employers must prove that no local can fill the position before hiring someone from abroad. That's fair from a national perspective, but it means opportunity for outsiders is extremely narrow. And even when you do find work, wages are low by U.S. standards. The average local salary can fall below $1,000 a month, sometimes far less depending on the region or industry. Teachers, police officers, and even office workers often earn between $500 and $800 a month. That's not exploitation. It's the reality of a small, developing economy. The cost of living might be lower than the US, but those wages barely stretch far enough for locals, let alone expats trying to maintain a Western lifestyle. There's also limited upward mobility. Belize's economy relies heavily on tourism, agriculture, and small-scale trade. That means few corporate ladders to climb and little room to build wealth unless you're bringing in money from outside. The country isn't built for ambitious career growth. It's built for sustainability, community, and survival. So, the red pill is this: Belize is only comfortable if you already have income. It's not where you go to start over financially. It's a remote worker or retiree country, a place for people who already have financial stability and want to exchange stress for simplicity. That's why so many long-term residents are self-employed digital workers, online consultants, or retirees with pensions. They're not living off Belize, they're living in Belize. There's a difference. This country doesn't reward hustle, it rewards peace. And peace costs money? Yes, there are Black Belizeans. But don't confuse that with Black American culture. The connection looks close on the surface, but it's not the same. The rhythm, the slang, the social rules, the meaning of identity, it's all different. The first surprise for many Black Americans is realizing that while people here might look like you, they don't necessarily see you as one of them. Belize is Caribbean, Central American, and uniquely its own. Its people descend from African, Mayan, Garifuna, Creole, and Mestizo roots. That mix shapes everything: the music, the language, the hierarchy. And while there's pride in African ancestry, it's expressed differently than in the US. Blackness here isn't built around American history or politics. It's shaped by colonial legacy, independence, and survival on a smaller scale. You'll hear people proudly identify as Garifuna or Creole, not Black, because those labels carry local meaning and cultural pride that don't translate perfectly across borders. So while you might expect to blend in, you'll still be seen as a foreigner, an American first, not a fellow Belizean. That comes with curiosity and sometimes admiration, but also distance. People are polite, but the social codes are different. Caribbean communication is more indirect, humor carries layers of meaning, and social trust builds slowly. It's not unfriendly, it's just guarded. You may feel less racial stress here, fewer microaggressions, fewer loaded assumptions, but you might also feel less belonging. You'll stand out economically, culturally, and socially. Locals are aware of the privilege that often comes with your passport. It's subtle, but it shapes how friendships and dating unfold. Some people may approach you with genuine interest, others may see opportunity. That doesn't mean exploitation, but it does mean awareness matters. Dating can be tricky too. Belize is small, everyone knows everyone, and gossip moves faster than Wi-Fi. Relationships cross cultural lines, but expectations differ. Gender roles can be traditional, and emotional communication isn't always direct. For some Americans, that's refreshing. For others, it's frustrating. The key point here is simple. Same shade does not equal same struggle. Shared skin tone might open doors, but it doesn't erase cultural distance. Belize welcomes you, but it doesn't revolve around you. And that's something every expat needs to respect. Let's talk about the part that gets left out of almost every Move to Belize video: safety. The country looks peaceful, but like anywhere, there's a difference between tourist Belize and real Belize. Belize has some of the highest violent crime rates in Central America when measured per capita. Most of it isn't random. It's gang-related and concentrated in certain neighborhoods of Belize City, far from the beaches and resorts tourists see. But those numbers are real, and they affect how the country operates. Locals know which areas to avoid after dark and which communities to respect boundaries in. That awareness keeps them safe, and it has to keep you safe too. Outside of Belize City, violent crime drops sharply, but petty crime is still part of daily life. Theft, break-ins, and scams happen often, especially around tourist zones or expat-heavy towns. People will test your guard: pickpocketing in crowded markets, accidental overcharges, or opportunistic theft when you leave valuables out. Most of it isn't violent, but it's persistent. Belize isn't dangerous because people are hostile. It's risky because it's economically uneven. The average income here is low, and foreign wealth stands out instantly. Police presence exists, but response times can be slow, especially outside major towns. Investigations often take time, and resources are limited. Locals know this, which is why they rely more on community vigilance than law enforcement. Neighbors watch each other's property, share information, and act as their own safety network. If you live here long term, you'll quickly learn that community trust is your first line of defense, not the police station. The balanced truth is simple. Belize is safe if you know where you are, who you're with, and how to move. But it's not safe if you assume paradise equals protection. That's the mistake many foreigners make. They relax too quickly. They leave doors unlocked, walk alone at night, or flash wealth in small towns. Locals would never do that because they know Belize is a place where awareness is survival, not paranoia. If you move smart, build relationships, listen to locals, stay humble, you can live here peacefully. But safety in Belize isn't automatic. It's earned through respect and awareness. Here's one of the most overlooked truths about Belize. The healthcare system isn't built for emergencies. You can live comfortably here, but if something serious happens, you'll need a plan that goes beyond the border. Belize has hospitals and clinics, but very few are equipped with modern technology or specialized care. Public facilities handle basic needs, infections, minor injuries, checkups, but anything advanced requires travel. If you have a major cardiac issue, a stroke, or a serious accident, the reality is simple. You'll be flown to Mexico or the United States for treatment. That's not exaggeration, it's how the system works. Medicine availability is another challenge. Pharmacies carry common prescriptions, but supplies fluctuate. One week, your medication is available, the next week, it's not. Many expats learn to bring extra medication from home or coordinate with pharmacies across the border. Belize isn't unreliable, it's just small. When imports delay, shelves empty fast. Private care exists and is far better than the public system, but it comes at a high price. A routine appointment might be affordable, but surgery, imaging, or emergency care can reach U.S.-level costs fast. Most locals can't afford private hospitals, which is why even Belizeans with means often travel abroad for medical procedures. The country also lacks a strong emergency response system. Ambulance service is limited, and response times vary wildly depending on where you live. In rural areas or islands, you might be waiting an hour or more, or depending on locals to get you to a hospital. That's why most expats arrange private insurance that includes emergency evacuation. Without it, one medical emergency can wipe out your savings. For older viewers especially, this part matters. You can't relax in Belize without a backup plan. If you have health issues, make sure your insurance covers cross-border care or medical flights. Belize is a beautiful place to live, but it's not built for crises. Peace here requires preparation. Belize makes it sound easy to move there. But long-term immigration is anything but simple. The truth is, you're a guest in Belize, not a citizen in waiting. The government offers something called the Qualified Retired Person Program, or QRP. On paper, it's attractive. You only need to be over 45, show a steady income of at least $2,000 a month from outside Belize, and you can live in the country tax-free on that income. Sounds perfect until you see the fine print. The rules shift often, paperwork takes months, and approvals depend heavily on how organized you are and which office you're dealing with. Belizean bureaucracy moves slowly, and follow-up next week can mean check back next month. Even with the QRP, you're not automatically building toward permanent residency or citizenship. It's a permission slip to live comfortably, not a pathway to belonging. If you want permanent residency, you must live in Belize continuously for at least a year, leaving the country for no more than 14 days total. Miss that window and you start over. And once you finally qualify, the process itself can take years. Citizenship is even harder. Belize doesn't hand out passports easily, and dual citizenship, while possible, is not guaranteed without deep ties and long-term commitment. You have to prove integration, financial stability, good conduct, and often personal connections that most expats never establish. So, while Belize welcomes your presence, it guards its identity carefully. This country isn't trying to become a new base for digital nomads or economic migrants. It's a small nation that values control, sovereignty, and patience. Belize will let you visit. It might even let you stay, but it will never let you forget. You're there by permission, not by right. Belize isn't a dream, it's a trade. You trade American convenience, stability, medical access, and career opportunity for something different. Peace, simplicity, nature, and distance from racism that wears you down day after day. And for some people, that trade makes sense. They're tired of noise, tired of pressure, tired of living in a system that drains them. Belize gives them quiet. It gives them time. It gives them space to breathe. But peace has a price. You'll trade predictable infrastructure for power outages. You'll trade a stable paycheck for a slower, smaller economy. You'll trade medical specialists and safety nets for sunshine and sea breeze. And you'll have to decide if that balance fits the life you actually want, not the fantasy version people post online. Belize is not broken. It's just built differently. The people here know how to make things work with less. They value relationships more than convenience and time more than money. That's the rhythm you have to learn if you want to stay. For many Black Americans, Belize feels like an emotional refuge, a place where you can exhale without the constant tension of being too much or not enough. The air feels lighter. The faces look familiar. You can walk through a market and feel seen. That alone can make the trade worth it. But let's be clear, Belize isn't your escape hatch. It's a choice, one that demands awareness, adaptability, and respect for a country that doesn't exist to make your life easier. You have to build patience, prepare financially, and plan for what's real, not what's promised. Because if you come with eyes open, Belize can give you something the U.S. rarely does: stillness. And in that stillness, you might finally find peace. But it should always be an informed choice, not a fantasy escape. If you're seriously thinking about life outside the U.S., don't do it blind. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to listen to our podcast. Every week, we discuss what starting over abroad really looks like: the good, the hard, and everything in between. Because moving abroad isn't about running away from something. It's about loving yourself enough to know you deserve better, having the courage to embrace something new, and the resilience to commit to building something better, one smart decision at a time.